Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is KarQ, and I've got one hell of a game here on Legion Tower that goes to all 5 rounds. I will be analyzing both my Zenyatta gameplay for the first 4 rounds and Ana gameplay during the final one. I did end up losing this game, so we're going to break down and see what I should have done to have turned this game into a victory. Alright, so first point of control center on Lijiang Tower, I opted to choose Zenyatta as the secondary support to Lucio because we're running a solo tank in Winston. When you have triple DPS, it's better to run Lucio Zen, especially with the Discord Orb, to get the maximal value out of your triple DPS. The whole point of the triple DPS comp is to overwhelm the enemy, kill them before they kill you. You know, as simple as it sounds, that's the basic idea of it. So even after discussing that, we actually switch our Genji last minute to a D.Va. So we are running a double tank comp with Winston D.Va, but they are dive-esque. Along with Tracer, we pretty much got a pseudo-dive minus McCree, which is alright, so we still stick with his Lucio Zen. Anyways, we move up to the White Halls here to start off the fight. Immediately, I'm zoned up by the Winston bubble, so I back off, throw my Harmony Orb on McCree to keep him alive, throw the Discord on Winston, hide behind line of sight with the wall, charge up my secondary fire, and immediately pop him. And that's basically how you do your job as Zenyatta. The basic breakdown or macro play that Zenyatas have to look for is to make sure your Harmony is on somebody, a priority DPS or someone on your team. Make sure Discord's on an enemy that's about to be focused down, which is Genji in this case. And after you ensure there's an orb on a teammate and an enemy, then you go for the attack. Basically the 1, 2, 3 checklist in order to do your job correctly as Zenyatta. So right now we're finishing off the last few stragglers of the first team fight, which we did win definitively, partially due to the fact that I managed to live as Zenyatta. I lived through the dive of Genji and Winston early on. So now that we have control of the point, the basic idea of holding Lijiang Tower is to hold that first door, that first choke point, because most enemies will be funneling through there. So what I do as Zenyatta is charge up my secondary fire as often as I can and fire it in that small little area. And here I actually pick off the Tracer, which is huge because it puts our team up into a 6v5 and deters the enemy team from making a full committed push. So again, here I repeat the charge secondary fire into the small doorway, and again I kill the Tracer. And despite the pick on Tracer, the enemy team still commits to a 5v6 team fight because they have big ultimates ready to be used. So I'm going to let the clip play, and then I'll analyze it after.
No, she's so mad. There's no way he's happy right now. There's no way the man is happy. Chat. Chat, I killed this Tracer twice with right clicks.
Alright, again, this is already a 6v5 team fight to start off because I killed Tracer, as you can see in the kill feed. And like I said, with the 1, 2, 3s of Zenyatta, throw your Harmony on somebody, a priority DPS or someone who's low, so in this case Tracer. Throw your Discord, which was Genji here, and then go for an attack. But in this case, I actually had to react to the Dragon Blade with the Transcendence. When you're in Transcendence, you're locked into the animation, so you actually can't throw any other healing orbs or Discord orbs. Healing Orb not as important because Transcendence is obviously a big healing aura, but getting a Discord Orb out before you Transcend is actually very vital in taking down Genji, especially during his Dragon Blade. You provide so much value to your team by doing this because not only do you heal your team and prevent them from dying the Dragon Blade, but you also help take him down having that Discord Orb already planted on him. So with Transcendence ending, I see the McCree here charging up his high nade and our Tracer sticks him, and here the Winston jumps me and I had to kite him. I throw the Discord and do my best to back up and throw my shots into him. I end up being taken down with the help of the enemy Genji, but the Winston does end up dying for diving me really far into the back, and I did land a lot of my shots with the Discord on him. So, at the end of it all, I provided great value to my team with my life there, as my Transcendence helped our team from being wiped by the Blade, and my Discord kiting the Winston and landing a lot of headshots helped take him down. So I took out a bunch of priority targets. Good job overall, pat on the back, good job KarQ. So as I come back to the point after my death, my team does end up winning the rest of the fight. As you can see here on the kill feed, McCree finishes 2 people off with the Deadeye, and the rest of the team follows suit. Now I firmly believe the rest of our team should have pushed up and held the choke or the door over there, but half of us were hanging out in the back, and it looks like our Tracer ended up being picked off as she was the only one up there. She ends up being caught, and the enemy team throws their Lucio beat down to help secure this team fight. We used up a lot of ult in that previous fight, so now we're down in ultimate economy, they overwhelm us, and we end up losing this subsequent fight. Alright, so we stalled 99%, the enemy team capped, so that's alright. We're going to regather ourselves here and make one big team fight push. The next victory secures us this map, so we try to work together and not waste any ultimates here. So we group up. We move to the right side into that dark hallway. Now before the team fight breaks out, you can see I already have a Harmony Orb on someone. I throw a Discord onto a priority enemy and call it out to my team. Unfortunately, looks like our McCree got picked off by Reaper, and us being down in a fight, we are already at a serious disadvantage, but we try to do our best here. I hear the Genji Blade, so I react to the Transcendence, which probably should not have been used. After losing our McCree early on from the Reaper, I think our team should have just backed up, or at least used the dry push. So at least committed to the fight, but not used any more ultimates to at least ensure they waste theirs, and we'd have ours for the next fight. But clearly this isn't the case here, as our Lucio still commits to the fight and burns our second support ultimate. The enemy team is still victorious in this fight, and we burned both our support ultimates, which are probably the two most powerful defensive ults you can have in the game. Having a Transcendence or having a Lucio beat is almost essential to living through a Soldier, Genji, or other big enemy ultimates. So over here is just a complete misplay by me. I got greedy after getting the enemy Ana low, and I whiffed all my shots here. Without trading her, my life was taken here without anything in return. I just fed here. We lost our Genji who tried to back me up, and now our team is really on the brink of losing this first map, as they've caught up to 70%, partially due to our poor timing and usage of our ultimates. So we gather ourselves for one final fight, and the enemy Lucio is really greedy with his wall ride, and our McCree stuns him, and I follow up with the charged secondary fire to take him out. We're up on a 6v5 and we're ready to win this first map on Lijiang Tower. However, we are met with an enemy Dragon Blade. Now this is going back to the point where I mentioned support defensive ults, namely Lucio and Zenyatta's, are very, very important in negating enemy ultimates. The Dragon Blade alone from the enemy wiped 4 or 5 of us and securely won them the final fight and won them this map. The takeaway point here is to seriously manage your defensive ultimate usage. You should not use these ultimates prematurely or get no value out of them, as they are so important in preventing team wipes. So on to the second map of this match. We're running a triple DPS comp in Soldier, McCree, and Pharah. Our solo tank is Zarya, which I don't like. Zarya is very DPS heavy. She isn't much of an initiator. I think if we ran a Diva or Winston to help with the front line, it would have been a lot more beneficial based on our comp. But nonetheless, we try to work with what we've got. So enemy Winston jumps in, or Lucio boops him out of the bubble, and he walks into the flashbang on McCree, and we finish him off early. Having that 6v5 advantage early on actually helps us secure this fight. I kind of throw my Discord onto whoever I can see someone low. The enemy Lucio shows up in front of me and ends up being punished right here. I don't know what he was up to. Soldier in front of me, Discord him, finish him off, and our team secures the first cap. So what I do here as Zenyatta is strafe left and right to make myself hard to hit and spam that choke point using this wall as cover in case I take damage. Applying pressure shots into that choke point ensures that they won't come out that way and forces them to come out into the white halls to my right. The minute I notice they make it here, I Discord the Winston and start charging my secondary fire and back up towards cover. The enemy soldier tried to run around the side of the point and flank me, but I used the wall as cover, dodged the Helix rocket, and eventually took him down with the help of Pharah. I throw the Harmony Orb to heal up my teammate and finish off the last straggler, which is Genji. Now I think I played this fight very well, and the reason why was because I applied pressure early on onto that choke point, as you can see here. Again, this forced the enemies to come to the right and not through the main choke, so I knew no one would be behind me if I started to kite backwards. I got a lot of value out of my life, managed to kill a couple people, throw some good Discord orbs, and overall played that team fight very cleanly. Now once again you can see our team applying pressure to that choke, forcing enemies to come into the white halls on the right. Theoretically, no one should be able to flank behind us, so we're going to try to take a fight while they're funneled in that tiny room. Now the fight breaks out, the enemy Winston is nanoed, and our Pharah rocket barrages to take out most of his health. Winston gets finished off, but we lost 2 of our teammates. Their nanoed main tank goes down, and we cleanly take this fight. My McCree calls out that Genji is flanking him, so I Discord him, throw the Harmony onto my McCree, and finish him off. So once again, my team and I poke that main choke point and force the enemy to go to the right side for one last push. So here comes the enemy initiation. The Winston leaps in, and the enemy Genji actually pulls out his Dragon Blade. Our Lucio reacts with a sound barrier, and I also react with a Transcendence when I see my Pharah was still low up there. I wasn't sure if she got caught into the sound barrier, so I made sure she stayed alive. As I kite backwards, I throw out my Discord, finish off the soldier, but the rest of the team seems to have died. Now I don't have their perspective, so I can't comment on how they played the fight, but I know what I did wrong, which was double stack the ultimate with Lucio. So we roll back out of our respawns, and you can see the fundamental problem we have with having Zarya as a solo tank. She's not much of an initiator, so she walks in, uses her personal bubble, but after that she's got nothing. We have no true front line, and our team loses this fight. A lovely DPS player on our team actually switched to Winston after we called out that we needed help on the front line. Our Winston leaps in to create space, our Zarya grabs, and we take a convincing fight to secure this second map. So for this third map, our DPS stayed on Winston, so we have a 2 tank comp with Winston and Zarya, 2 DPS as Genji, McCree, and 2 supports with Lucio, Zenyatta. If I were to be honest, this team comp doesn't look very good because we're all over the place. We got a little bit of dive, a hit scan, a death ball hero in Zarya, and a Zenyatta. Nonetheless, you gotta work with what you got. So we roll out of the point here. We see that the enemy team is not gonna fight us at the main choke. So we move towards the point and see the enemy team is there to meet us. Both Winstons drop their bubbles at the choke, but our Winston actually ends up backing off instead of diving their back line. He's not really doing his job in creating space for our back line, so what ends up happening is our entire team has to fall back with him and we end up getting picked off one at a time. I know there's this whole meme that says Winston is so easy to play because there's no brain, no aim, easy Winston main, whatever you want to call it. But in all honesty, playing a good Winston is way more than just aiming. It's all about knowing when to leap in, knowing when to bubble, knowing how to create space for your team effectively. And he didn't do so there, which caused our entire backline to lose. Now we're going to wait here and regroup as 6 and make another push towards the point. As a Zenyatta here, I always look to charge secondary fire and throw it around when I peek corners, just in case I manage to pick somebody off. There's virtually no downside in doing this when there's no team fight breaking out, especially when you're regrouping as a team. Our McCree opens up this fight by picking off the enemy Tracer who probably blinked too close to him. Despite that, the enemy team still committed to the fight and their Genji pulled out his Dragon Blade. Our Lucio dropped the beat in response, and at the end of it all, our team comes out on top. I think my positioning in that fight was really poor as I was really far forward. Despite having my Lucio drop the beat and getting that extra barrier, the enemy Genji still finished me off with a Dragon Blade as I got focused down. So we finally take this point, and one popular strategy on this map is to hold the choke point near their spawn. I move up thinking our team would follow, but the Reaper pops up and tries to pick me off by using his Death Blossom. I get bailed out by our Zarya, and it ends up going in our favor as now he lost his ultimate and staggered his death. Now I did mention this popular strategy of holding the choke, but no one on our team decides to do it. You can see here our team is scattered. We have one person in all different positions of this map, which is actually pretty bad for King of the Hill defense. Zarya's holding up with a choke, but our McCree is playing high ground all the way near the back of our base. Soldier is coming out of spawn, Genji wall climbing in front of me, and Lucio is stuck on the point. I'm in a bad spot because this spot doesn't give a great shooting angle for Zenyatta. Lucio gets no value sitting on the point, and McCree gets very little value shooting from that distance due to damage drop off. We definitely deserve to lose this next team fight. Now I wait for my team to respawn, and our Zarya calls out she's going to use her Graviton to open up this fight. I notice the Tracer on the right side and she almost one-clips me, but I managed to pull off my Transcendence just in time. The enemy actually commits their Dragon Blade and a Nano Boost onto their Winston, and I got a lot of value out of my Transcendence because of that. We finish off the remaining Lucio and secure the point. This time around I tell my team we have to hold this choke point together or else it's not going to work. I pick off the enemy Ana with the charged secondary fire, and again you can see the power of Zenyatta. Just having the ability to punish enemies for peeking like that is so powerful in Zenyatta's arsenal as it stops an enemy's push for at least 20 seconds. So as a unit holding this choke point, once again my secondary fire picks off the enemy Reaper. We're immediately up at a 6v5 and I kite back using discords, using harmony orbs, and try to finish off the rest of the team trying to land as many shots as I can. So at this point, the next team fight wins this map, as both teams are at about 80 to 90%. I throw out the Discord at the choke, try to poke down the enemies, whittle them down, and the enemy Lucio goes down to our Genji. Our McCree picks off their McCree, and we're up a 6v4 fight. However, if we slow down the footage, you can see that I get hit by 2 orbs from Zenyatta and 2 shurikens. This prompted the Genji to dash into me and get himself a reset. Our McCree gets slept by the enemy Ana, and our Lucio drops the beat prematurely to keep him alive. You can see here that our Genji is blading and finishes off the Ana. Our Lucio helps finish off the Reaper after Genji slashes him once, and we're up at a 5v2. However, the 2 people alive are great at stalling. Genji's hard to hit and the Winston is ulting. The Genji manages to pick off our Soldier, making it a 4v2, and he builds his blade and finishes off our Lucio. Our McCree does make it back on time to finish off the Winston and the Genji, who were the last 2 on the point. However, the early 2 kills we got on the Lucio and McCree, their respawns are done. They're back on the point. The Genji and the Winston ended up stalling so long that they came back and ended up cleaning up our team. I Transcendence on point to make it back there quicker and try to keep our Zarya alive, but to no avail. Overall, a great stall by the enemy team to allow the Lucio and McCree to come back and clean up the rest of the fight.
Unfortunate.
Round 3.
How do we lose that?
Maybe we should get like an Ana.
So heading into the fourth map of this match, we're gonna run the double tank with D.Va Zarya this time, 2 DPS in Farah McCree, and our 2 supports as Lucio Zenyatta. Now right off the gate, I can tell that the enemy team had poor communication, as the enemy soldier was the only one up on the bridge here while the rest of their team went into the white halls onto the right. We singled out the enemy soldier who was the only one here, punished him for his positioning, and promptly took the fight. I think a lot of people need to understand that King of the Hill is very much momentum based. Winning the first fight in King of the Hill is highly indicative of winning that round. So be careful of your positioning when taking your first fights on King of the Hill maps, because the soldier there single-handedly handed them their loss. So despite me dying early in that fight due to the Genji diving me and the Pharah landing a direct rocket, our team still trades my death for theirs and our team wins the fight. While our team is holding the point, the enemy Genji is just feeding. He's fighting our team 1v6 and I throw the Discord on him and he actually pulls out his Dragon Blade, effectively wasting the entire ultimate. The enemy team continues to trickle in one at a time and we take them down just like so. In all honesty, the reason why we're winning this map so far is because the enemy is making so many mistakes. First with the soldier walking in for no reason, Genji burning his blade, and the enemy team trickling in one at a time. Now despite all the mistakes the enemy team is making, their Genji is single-handedly putting the team on his back. He kills our Genji, kills our McCree, duels me in a 1v1 and gets me as well. Now that we've lost 3, the enemy team pulls out the tactical visor from the soldier and wipes the rest of our team despite being up 6v4 early on from the tricklers. So far this game is a true clown fiesta, going back and forth with both teams making crucial mistakes. Now just focusing on my mistakes, if I totally won that 1v1 against him, I would have changed the tide of the battle for sure. However, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and now that the enemy team used a lot of ultimates to secure the last fight, we have a lot of ultimates to use offensively here. We use the Lucio beat and the Transcendence offensively on top of our Genji blading the enemy team. We end up wiping them and we secure the point. So the enemy team waits to regroup and uses Nano Blade to initiate the fight. Now here's where the mistake me and Lucio made last fight comes into play here. We stacked our support ultimates in a fight that we definitely didn't need to. That mistake there costed us this team fight as we had nothing to defend ourselves from the Nano Genji. Now just a reminder, whenever you play Lucio and Zenyatta on the same team, communication is actually so key so you never stack your ultimates. It's very important to call out to your other support which ultimate you're going to use your support ultimate for. So for example, based on the enemy team comp, I should have told my Lucio I would save my Transcendence for the Nano Blade and he should save his beat for a Winston leaping in or to use it offensively. For this next fight, there's nothing much to analyze. The enemy team held the choke well, so I'm going to fast forward to the next significant fight. So immediately out of the choke, we can see the enemy is making a lot more positional errors. This Lucio was wall riding way too deep into our back lines and he ends up getting killed for it, making it a 6v5 fight. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time that the enemy team threw fights because of bad positioning. As we go on, the enemy tracer actually manages to stick me, but I pop Transcendence to go invulnerable and dodge the sticky bomb, move into the point with my team and do my best to assist them in the final fight here. I get bullied around by the Winston. There wasn't much I could do besides keep an orb on him and an orb on a teammate throughout the whole fiasco. My team ends up winning this fight and secures this 4th map, and on to the 5th map we go. So for this final map, I actually opted to switch to Ana because people were complaining that they did not receive enough healing, and I'm a people pleaser, so I tend to do things like that. In this situation, switching Zenyatta to Ana isn't the worst thing because we are running at least 2 tanks. I generally advise not to ever run Ana when we're running a solo tank, just because you don't get enough healing done as a primary healer to build your nano boosts quickly. So our team comes out of the choke, we don't see the enemy at their choke, so we can assume that they rushed to the point. We move in and a skirmish breaks out. The enemy is running a D.Va, so unfortunately I was unable to throw a good nade into the enemy team, while the enemy Ana threw a good purple anti-nade onto our team. This resulted in our team losing the first fight, and we had to regroup ourselves for the next one. So right out of the spawn here, on the back of our McCree getting a pick on their Ana, we start the fight out at a 6v5 advantage. The enemy Genji tries to dive into our McCree after noticing that he probably burned flashbang to kill his Ana, but he gets punished as our team comes out of the choke and kills him instead. We're up at a 6v4 now and we shouldn't lose this fight. We make quick work of the enemy team and we proceed to push up to the choke and hold them there. So as we proceed to play at the choke, I tell my Genji I almost have nano boost and I'm ready to nano him as soon as I can. The enemy Genji responds with their Dragon Blade, but I immediately shut him down with my sleep dart. I follow that up with a nano on our Genji and we wipe them very, very cleanly. The risk of using big ultimates like that is you have to make sure you don't overuse ultimates, so managing your ultimate economy within your team is actually essential to winning games. Right now, our Zarya did say she has a grab ready for the next fight, but that's pretty much all we've got, so we have to get the most value out of it. The enemy Winston gets very antsy and jumps in preemptively, and I sleep him and we finish him off very quickly. Our Zarya built her grab off of that and dumped it on a few enemies as soon as she could. While it looks like we have an advantage, the enemy Lucio ends up booping our Lucio off and the D.Va bomb self-destructs onto our Zarya and suddenly it's an even fight once more. I keep my D.Va alive, which is probably the most important part here as Ana, which managed to get her mech back and keep stalling the point. It's a 4v4 until I make the crucial mistake of poor positioning and I get booped off the map by the D.Va. Our McCree also gets booped by the enemy Lucio and suddenly we're down for a little bit. However, our Genji pulls out his blade and does the best he can to stall. At this point it looks like we're down in numbers for these fights, so we're just trickling in and trying to stall as much as we can. However, the enemy does stop the bleeding at 77% for us and caps the point. I back off with my team and wait to regroup in order to push. So right here I'm just putting in shots on my D.Va who's taking a bit of poke damage to build my nano boost as soon as I can. I try to dump it onto the Genji, but I actually end up hitting the McCree, thank you nano boost sensitivity, which isn't the worst. He does end up deadeyeing and killing the Lucio, but I think the nano boost kind of made the McCree panic and prompted him to use the deadeye in response. I believe if he didn't lock himself in that ult animation, he could have dodged the D.Va self-destruct. The Genji whips out his blade here and kills our Zarya with high charge, which is unfortunate because maybe if the McCree lived, maybe just maybe, that flashbang would have helped take him down a bit earlier. The enemy has about 75%, which means we could technically group up and take another fight. However, we get staggered and staggered. I moved up a bit too far to try to heal the D.Va, who ends up flying out anyways, which put me in a bad position, and the Winston finished me off after jumping on me. At this point, I'm too far staggered, our team is trickling, and we're flustered. We can't pull ourselves together here as we go in one by one and die. GG, this was truly a butt-clenching game, but the enemy team was victorious. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this VOD review. I'm going to try to do these a lot more often. I know they may not be the most fun content to watch, but I do think it's quite educational. It's good for me as I reflect on my own gameplay, and it may be helpful for you guys. If you want some private coaching, I am coaching on a site called sandbox.gg, so definitely check it out. The link's in the description. And other than that, you can find this gameplay at twitch.tv/KarQ. And I think that's it for all the plugs. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.